Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And with this one, we have the developer's preview for Eternity's End 9.2 in Shadowlands. And it's been a pretty wild trip so far with World of Warcraft. And I think that this patch really needs to hit the nail on the head for a lot of players to either get them back or to continue their enjoyment of the game. But when I watched the trailer for it, as more of a competitive PvP player, I wasn't even mentioned in it. I actually recorded a video before this. I was trying to do a reaction video of it to see, is there going to be anything in it that jumps out to me that makes me really excited for it as the type of player that I am. And we weren't even mentioned in the list. I mean, it was like PvP wasn't even mentioned as a word. Maybe it's just because the thematics of this patch are much more geared towards, the end of Eternity and not so much Horde versus Alliance. I'm not sure. Maybe that's why they wanted to leave it out. But they listed everything else. Now, I did dig a little bit deeper beyond just the trailer to try and figure out what was going on, because there were some really big announcements in the trailer. I think the first one that jumped off the page was tier sets coming back. I was very impressed with the artwork on the tier sets when they were drawn on the backdrop, but when they showed them and displayed them in game, they did not have the same type of vibe as they had for the original artwork that I had seen, and I'm a bit worried about them aesthetically. Again, this is my own personal taste of the set gear. I'm sure that you're going to have your own take on it as well. But when I scrolled through the notes themselves, it seemed like there was a lot more depth to what's going on in the patch. So there's going to be a new zone, Zareth Mortis. For me as a PvP player, I view this as kind of Nazjatar 2.0, Broken Shore 4.0, Korthia 5.0, right? In terms of, I'm sure they're going to iterate on the same kind of structure that these zones have been following for a long time. It's not really the gameplay loop that I derive the most enjoyment from the game. I don't mind checking out a new zone, seeing if there's any cool, interesting little story bits or points in it. In particular, when they talked about one of the raid bosses being kind of a descendant or part of the species of Algalon and then being corrupted by the jailer, I actually thought that was interesting, and I'm not somebody that even really follows the story. So it's always nice to check out the story, but I really hope that this doesn't end up falling into kind of that mandatory loop as a competitive player, where I'm just eventually hitting that tedious point. That's something that I'm got great concern, because it seems like we've made so much ground with 9.1.5, but is 9.2 going to be undoing any of that ground that we've made? There wasn't any talk of that specifically, so that's still going to be remaining an unknown for me personally. As a main focal point, they go into the story of the Enlightened, kind of the creators of the afterlife. An interesting story point to see like who created the Shadowlands, almost the underpinnings of the afterlife universe, and then also hinting that we might be seeing some hints at other universes that we haven't been to yet. We're kind of getting on that cosmic scale. I'm more of the player that likes the kind of like, you're that random ragtag adventurer from the nowhere land and you're trying to, just make your way in the world. I kind of like that view of the RPG world. The cosmic forces thing is kind of a little bit too much for me personally. But if you're into that is where the direction is going. Decode the cipher, the first one, so we're going to be unlocking a language. As a musician, I actually thought this was an interesting point, where this species, this race, they don't speak in words, they speak in sounds. I actually thought that was really cool, especially as kind of an improvisist, is that a word? Improv musician, always trying to like speak with song and melodies and convey that. Actually, it caught me a little bit, just because of that background that I have, and it was cool to hear about their sound team. The new raid, of course, coming out, the Sepulture. We're trying to unravel the mysteries of why the jailer wants the Sepulture, what's going on, and how to combat the domination magic of the jailer. And then we talked about this tier sets returning. And this is where we were mentioned. Okay? When I watched the video, I was really upset because it wasn't even there. But at least here, we're mentioned. Harness the power of the first ones by collecting distinctive class armor sets via raid, PvP, or Mythic Plus dungeons. Each set comes with powerful 2 and 4-piece set bonuses that complement your unique abilities. So there's not a lot of specifics on this, right? So maybe that's going to be in a patch somewhere down the road, right? Does this mean that there's going to be 2 set and 4 set pieces for the raid that only work in the raid, similar to some of the gear we saw from Nazjatar that benefited your character in the raid? And then also Mythic Plus set bonuses that only benefit you in Mythic Plus, and then also PvP set bonuses? Or is it going to be the same bonus across all? I would kind of struggle to believe it would be the same bonus across all, just because again that would force a lot of crossover, where PvEers might not want a PvP and PvPers might not want a PvE. That I don't think we want to go down, because that's been hit so many times, and now I think it's kind of seen that there are these distinct loops, right? There are people who want to log in and parse in the raids, compete in the race to world first. There are people who want to push their Mythic Plus scores, compete in the MDI. There are people who want to push their PvP ratings and compete in AWC, potentially at the top end of that loop. Like, there are these competitive loops, and whenever their time is detracted by having to spend time in another loop that doesn't really improve their ability directly with their main loop, they feel like they're distracted. They're feeling their time is being pulled away, their attention is being pulled away from the thing that they do want to move in and progress. So I would really like for these to be unique set bonuses to each environment. And this was a recommendation that I made, and I'm sure a lot of people have made, to have these different types of set bonuses come back, because PvP gear used to have bonuses like glove bonuses and stuff like that, that made your character more fun. It could also be a great tool for rebalancing those specific parts of the game, right? Let's say a class is super powerful in raids, but underwhelming in Mythic Plus. So then you can give them a Mythic Plus set bonus that makes them enhanced in Mythic Plus, so they're competing with everybody else. But then when they go into the raid, that set bonus no longer works, so they're back to where they need to be to progress in the raid. Could be, engaging their utility spells in a different way. Maybe a utility spell does damage, or a damage spell gets a utility effect that's really cool on a specific boss mechanic or something for that given raid. I would really like to see it going really into that type of detail, that fine-tuned tailoring, and then into PvP as well. If we want to bring sustained damage up on some specs that it's too low, then the set bonuses can be aimed at those spells on that spec specifically. I think that this could be a great way to enhance the gameplay loops for everybody, without having that kind of forced crossover that we've seen now time and time again, that I think people are now just starting to kind of get overwhelmed with at this point. But I was happy that we were at least mentioned here in the blog, but this is still left out in the open. Does the set just mean that it's the shared cosmetic? It seems like they would be separate. But then the unique abilities, does that mean covenant abilities? Does that mean your class abilities? It's kind of left vague. Maybe they wanted to leave it vague, so that they have time to develop it. Maybe it's just not that far along yet. And then, of course, all the features that are coming, the new PvP season, the new Mythic Plus season, new keystones to Tazavesh, the dungeon being split up, same kind of way Mechagon did. So this is kind of following that same trend. Updates to professions. What are they going to do with professions? Professions have kind of been left kind of just as this: buy a WoW token, go look up a guide, click a menu for a few hours, and boom, it's done. I'm wondering what they're going to do to make them more interesting. Soul binds, are we getting a new one, or is it just another layer on the already existing ones? Conduits, more conduits. As a PvP player, bit worried about this one, because a lot of the time these conduits that come out are usually ones that are like, this heals you for a lot, this shields you for a lot at a random interval. So if there are a lot of those ones coming again, really want some PvP specific nerfs to those, because generally you don't really even notice them in PvE, and then they end up just being problematic in PvP. And that's been a trend that's happened a while, so I'm jumping on that one right away here by saying if there's any conduits like that are just like these auto heal, auto shield, auto bots assemble mechanics, I would really like them looked at specifically for PvP, or just already preemptively nerfed. But we have seen them improve on that throughout these patches. It's not like Battle for Azeroth, where we were left with a trinket that was just causing games to never end for a very long time, because of the philosophy at the time where it was WoW and everything should work type of feel. So I'm really hoping we're still moving in that direction, where things can be tailored to create the best experience for everybody's gameplay loop, right? I want the player who likes going into the world and doing the world quests and progressing their character and seeing the story to have a good time. I want the person who wants to focus on competing in Mythic Plus to have a good time. Person who's focusing on Raid to have a good time. PvP having a good time. I just want everybody to have a good time. And I can see now that the forced, like, you need this item from PvP to be the best you can be in the raid, it's I feel like it's taking its toll on some players. Maybe not all. You can let me know if you're not that player, of course, where you do feel like you have the time, but it is a lot of time if you want to compete at the highest PvP level, highest Mythic Plus level, highest raid level, get every single daily quest in time, but all you really cared about was your parse at the end of the week in the raid, but you had to put every single hour into everything else just to do that in the raid. You're on every waking moment. Maybe you want that. But for me, I would rather have my time focused on the avenues that I like. If I get a peak of interest in Mythic Plus, then jump over. Maybe the PvP gear works there, right? But the set bonus doesn't. So I'm at the kind of more base level while I'm working on my Mythic Plus progression and skill and gear, and I can grind that up from there. Would be ultimately how I would like it. Again, that's my own preference. You can disagree with it if you want. I'm not trying to force it on anybody. I'm just trying to put it out there, present it with the best argument that I can, to make a case that I think it could create the best experience for everybody. But other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope that you liked it. If you did, leave it with a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. Just lets you know when my videos go live. So if you're ever curious about World of Warcraft in the future, or in the present right now and what's going on, is there anything that's really capturing my interest, then you'll be able to follow along by subscribing. And other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I will see you in the next one.